The alarm buzzed at 3:45 a.m. Angela stirred for a moment in bed, caught between sleep and reality, before hearing the soft creak of the dresser drawer opening. It was John, already halfway dressed in the dark. He moved like a man on autopilot, jeans, undershirt, work boots by the door. Angela blinked at the glowing red digits on the clock. She hated this part of his job the most, the early morning departures, the cold coffee in the thermos, the goodbye kiss she barely remembered receiving. But this time, she stayed awake. John sat at the edge of the bed, his massive frame silhouetted against the hallway light. He leaned over and kissed her cheek, softly, brushing her hair back like he always did. "You good?" he asked, his voice rough but gentle. "Mm-hmm," she mumbled. He paused. "I should be back late Sunday night. Dispatch gave me that Arkansas loop again." Angela nodded. Then came the words he said every time. "Call me if you need anything. Love you." The door closed behind him, and just like that, she was alone. John was a long-haul trucker, a modern-day cowboy riding diesel and asphalt. He'd been doing it for 16 years, ever since their second child was born, and the bills started piling higher than their fridge magnets. He drove for days at a time, living out of truck stops and motel beds, just to keep a roof over their heads. Angela used to cry when he left. Now she just stared at the ceiling. By 7:15 a.m., the house was awake. The kids, Elijah, 10, and Madison, 7, were halfway through cereal and cartoons while Angela packed lunches in a rhythm she'd memorized. Peanut butter, sliced apples, juice boxes. She smiled at their little voices in the background, loud and innocent. Sometimes she felt like a single mom, but not because John was gone. No, John was present, just always far away. That was the thing. He never complained, never asked for more. He was always working, always sacrificing, and sometimes Angela hated him for it. Not because he wasn't good to her, but because he made it impossible to justify what she was doing behind his back. The man's name was Derek. Younger, local, worked in construction. He'd been helping with a renovation down the block when Angela first noticed him. The way he smiled, the way he flirted, the way he saw her in a way John hadn't in years. It started with long conversations on the porch, then texts, then meetings. Now it was a full-blown affair, but this time something was different. John had left a note on the fridge that morning, a drawing their daughter had made, a messy stick-figure family, and beneath it, in his chicken-scratch handwriting, he'd written, "I miss all of you every mile I drive." Angela stared at the note longer than she should have. Her throat tightened. Her hand trembled as she held her phone. She was supposed to meet Derek that afternoon, but for the first time, she didn't want to go. Derek waited in the parking lot behind the old church near Maple and Ninth. That was their usual spot, quiet, empty during the day, tucked between a line of trees and a forgotten alley. No cameras, no questions. He sat in his truck, engine idling, left hand tapping the steering wheel, right hand checking his phone again. 1:12 p.m. No text, no call. She was supposed to be here 12 minutes ago. His jaw clenched. Angela sat in her car 3 blocks away, parked in front of a Dollar General, hands shaking on the steering wheel. She could see Derek's angry texts lighting up her screen. Derek. "You good? Derek. Don't play with me, Angie. Derek. You forget what we had last week? You forget how I made you feel?" She closed her eyes, exhaled, and whispered to herself, "This is wrong." But guilt was no match for temptation. Not always. She started the engine. When she pulled into the back lot, Derek didn't even let her park all the way before he was at her door. He opened it fast. "Where the hell you been?" he snapped. "I had to drop Madison off at my mom's, and then I just—" She shook her head, not finishing the sentence. He narrowed his eyes. "You changing up on me?" Angela looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something she hadn't before. Not passion, not excitement, just possession. "I'm just tired, Derek." "No, you're feeling guilty," he said, stepping closer, voice low but sharp. "You think that blue-collar saint of a husband deserves better, right?" Angela flinched. You think I don't see it? Every time we're together now, you get this faraway look, like you're trying to convince yourself it never happened. She didn't answer. So say it then, he dared her. Tell me it's over. She hesitated. I'm serious, Angie. Say the words. She took a breath and finally spoke. I can't do this anymore. Silence. He laughed once, dry and bitter. Wow, John is a good man, she said, voice cracking. He's breaking his back for this family. He doesn't deserve this. And the kids. God, the kids. Derek took a step back, nodded. You're right, he said, voice oddly calm. He doesn't deserve this. Then a long pause. But maybe I deserve you. Angela didn't say anything. She got in the car and drove off. She didn't see him watching her the whole time, didn't see how his expression shifted from hurt to hate. That night, John FaceTimed from a rest stop in Missouri. He looked tired, windburned, but smiling. How's my crew? He asked. Angela looked at the kids playing in the background, then back at the man on her screen, the man she had betrayed, and she smiled through her guilt. We're doing okay, she said. But somewhere, alone, in the darkness of his truck cab, Derek stared at an old photo on his phone. Angela, half-dressed, smiling just for him, and he whispered to himself, I'm not letting you go. Derek didn't work much that week, didn't sleep either. Instead, he sat in his truck with the engine off and the windows down, parked half a block from Angela's house, hidden behind overgrown hedges and a for sale sign nobody had taken down in months. It was quiet there, too quiet. From where he sat, he could see into their living room through the thin front curtains. Angela folding laundry, Madison dancing in socks, Elijah playing with toy trucks on the floor, a picture-perfect family. But Derek saw something different. He saw lies. She's pretending, he thought, acting like I never existed, like what we had was just a phase. He hated how easy it was for her to slip back into that world, how quickly she erased him. And then John came home. It was late Sunday night when the big rig pulled into the driveway, headlights cutting across the neighborhood like searchlights. Angela came outside in her robe, arms crossed against the cold. John stepped out of the cab like a man carrying the world on his back. He smiled. She hugged him. Tight. He kissed her forehead. Inside the truck, Derek clenched the steering wheel so hard the leather cracked beneath his palms. He wasn't supposed to feel like this. He was supposed to be the relief in her life, not the burden. But she'd chosen John, and in Derek's twisted mind, that made John the thief. The next day, Angela noticed the car parked near the corner. It was familiar, dark blue, slight rust on the back fender. It was Derek's truck. She froze at the kitchen window. For the rest of the day, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. At the grocery store, at school pickup, at the gas station. Every time she turned around, she felt a pair of invisible eyes. At one point, she stepped out of the store with Madison in tow and found a yellow tulip on her windshield. No note, just the flower. Her heart dropped. Yellow tulips were her favorite. Derek knew that. That night, she locked every window and kept her phone face down on the counter. She didn't answer his texts. She didn't tell John. She just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long a mistake could haunt you. And out on the street, a man sat in the dark, whispering to himself. She was mine first. Angela parked 2 blocks away from the diner where Derek worked part-time. It was late, after dinner rush, but the parking lot still held the dull hum of flickering neon lights and tired music leaking from the kitchen door. She wasn't sure what she was doing here, but the tulip had crossed a line, and the car outside her house again that morning, that was the final straw. She walked in, stomach in knots, eyes scanning the back booths until she saw him. Derek, alone, arms spread across the table like he owned the place, a coffee mug in front of him, untouched, a knowing smile curling at the edge of his mouth. He'd been expecting her. "You've got some nerve," she said as she slid into the booth across from him. "I missed you too," he replied. Cut it, Derek. He leaned forward. You look tired. He not taking care of you like I did? Angela's jaw tightened. This has to stop. You sitting outside my house, leaving things on my car. That's stalking. I don't want this anymore. I told you that. His smile didn't fade. You didn't mean it. Yes, I did. No, he said, his voice sharpening. You meant you were scared. Scared to feel something real for once. I gave you fire, and now you want to run back to your… What? Your weak, sleepwalking husband with his trucker tan and tired back? Angela's voice dropped low. Say another word about John, and I swear to God… What? Derek leaned in, eyes dark now. You'll run? Call the cops? Tell your precious husband that while he was driving 700 miles to feed his kids, you were in the back seat of my truck moaning my name? Her eyes burned. John's a good man, she said through gritted teeth. The kind of man you'll never be. Derek sat back, expression hollow. For a moment he looked hurt. Then, something else. Something still. You think I'm going to let you erase me? He asked, almost whispering. You think you can walk back into that fake little life and pretend I was a detour? Angela stood up. I made a mistake, and I'm fixing it. Stay away from me. Stay away from my family. He didn't move, didn't respond. She turned and walked out the door, heart pounding, tears hot in her eyes. But she didn't look back. She couldn't. Derek sat there, alone, for nearly an hour. His hands balled into fists, knuckles white. The coffee had gone cold. He didn't sip it once. Derek didn't sleep that night. Angela's words rang in his head like war drums. Stay away from me. I made a mistake. John's a good man. She had looked him in the eye and picked another man over him. After everything. After all the nights they spent tangled in silence and sweat. After all the things she said when her guard was down. It wasn't regret that burned him now. It was humiliation. By morning, he was sitting in his garage, staring at an old duffel bag on the workbench. Inside were tools from a different life. A tire iron, duct tape, gloves, a burner phone he hadn't used since before Angela. He didn't touch them, not yet, but he opened the bag, just to see. Meanwhile, Angela went through her day with a tight smile and a pounding heart. Every time her phone buzzed, her stomach dropped. Every time she heard tires outside, her blood ran cold. She didn't tell John anything, not yet. He was finally home, fixing the sink, making pancakes with the kids, joking in that low, goofy way he had when he was relaxed. It killed her inside, not because of guilt anymore, but because she knew something was coming. She could feel it. She wanted to say, John, there's a man who's watching us. John, I made a mistake and it's trying to follow me home. But she couldn't. Not yet. She needed time. That night, Derek sat in his truck, parked at the end of a quiet service road near a truck stop. He had been watching John's route. John always left on Sunday nights, always took Highway 47 south toward Little Rock. Angela had mentioned it once without thinking, and Derek remembered, because he remembered everything she ever said. He pulled up Google Maps and dropped a pin near mile marker 27. Remote, wooded, no streetlights, just a stretch of empty blacktop with nothing but pine trees and silence. A perfect place to disappear. Back in the house, Angela tucked Madison into bed and kissed Elijah goodnight. The house was peaceful, warm, like nothing had ever happened. She walked into the kitchen and saw John rinsing dishes, whistling softly. He looked up and smiled. Hey, babe, you all right? She almost broke. She almost told him everything. Instead, she walked up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. Yeah, she whispered. Just glad you're home. But outside, across the street, parked behind a line of hedges, Derek was watching, and he wasn't going to wait much longer. Sunday morning. The sun rose warm and soft over their little neighborhood. It was the kind of morning that made everything seem okay. Birds chirping, bacon sizzling, kids arguing over cartoons. John was in the driveway, tightening a strap on the trailer of his rig. He looked peaceful, focused. It was his last day home before the week-long haul through Arkansas and Louisiana. Angela stood by the front door, arms crossed, watching him. She wanted to say something. Anything. But how do you confess something that could shatter your children's world? He wiped his hands on a rag and smiled at her. Everything good? She forced a nod. Yeah, just be safe out there. He stepped forward and kissed her on the forehead. Always am. And then he was gone. That afternoon, Derek stood at a self-serve gas station outside of town, watching John's rig through binoculars from across the street. He'd mapped the route, tracked the ETA, and memorized John's first stop, 10 miles shy of the state line. There was a sharp curve just beyond mile marker 27, followed by a narrow stretch of forest. No cameras, no traffic, just asphalt and shadow. He slid a small, unmarked box under the passenger seat of his truck. Inside, a burner phone, gloves, and a pistol wrapped in a towel. Not rage, not impulse, a plan. Angela, that evening. She couldn't shake the feeling. Her hands trembled as she cooked dinner, her eyes darting to the windows every few minutes. Every time a car passed, her chest clenched. She finally picked up her phone and typed out a message. Angela, John, call me when you stop for the night. I really need to talk. But before she could hit send, her phone rang. Unknown caller. Her heart dropped. She answered. Nothing at first, then the sound of static and breathing. Angela, Derek's voice crackled through. You need to stop, she said, voice shaking. I did everything for you, babe, he said, slow and deliberate. And you chose a man who doesn't even see you. Derek, I'm warning you, he laughed softly. You'll understand soon. Then the line went dead. Angela dropped the phone and bolted to the bedroom, heart racing. She opened the nightstand drawer and grabbed the emergency credit card. She had one thought. Go find John. Now. She packed a bag in less than 5 minutes and grabbed the car keys, because something inside her, something primal, knew Derek wasn't just watching anymore. He was hunting. 30 minutes later, Derek's truck sat in the woods just beyond mile marker 27. Engine off, hazard lights on, hood up, like he'd broken down. He stood beside it, pacing slowly, head down, one hand in his jacket pocket, waiting, smiling. The hum of the highway was a lullaby John had grown used to. 17 years behind the wheel had turned long stretches of darkness into meditation. The rhythmic thump of tires, the low growl of the engine, and the occasional flash of headlights from passing cars were the only companions he needed. He was 30 miles into the run now, a quarter tank deep, halfway through a sermon podcast about forgiveness. Pastor Tomlin's voice echoed through the cab, talking about mercy, even when it isn't deserved. John nodded along, chewing sunflower seeds, thinking about his family. Madison's school play was next month. Elijah had been asking about Little League again. Angela had seemed off this morning. Something in her eyes, a shadow behind the smile. He made a mental note to call her at the next stop. Up ahead, mile marker 27, and Derek, hood up. Truck angled just slightly off the road, hazard lights blinking. He stood beside it, hands in his jacket, swaying a little like a man waiting for a bus. As John's rig approached, Derek stepped halfway into the lane and waved. John instinctively slowed down. On the road? Angela was speeding, headlights tunneling through the darkness, her heart beat in her throat, her mind replaying Derek's voice over and over. You'll understand soon. She called John again. No answer. Tried again. Straight to voicemail. No. Come on, baby. Answer. She gripped the wheel tighter, eyes scanning the GPS. Mile marker 27. 2 miles. Please, God. Not yet. John pulled over. He climbed down from the rig, boots hitting gravel. You okay? He called out, approaching Derek cautiously. Need a jump? Derek smiled. Yeah, sorry. Battery's been acting up. John nodded, already turning to get cables from the side panel. That's when he heard the click. He froze, slowly turned back around, and saw Derek holding the gun, not shaking, not nervous, just cold. What the hell is this? John asked, voice calm but sharp. Derek tilted his head. She never told you, huh? Told me what? That she used to come to me. That your wife, your good, loyal wife, used to lie in my truck calling out your name just to spit on it. John's jaw clenched. You better put that down before you do something stupid. Derek took a step closer. I was good to her. I gave her what you never could. She cried for me, begged me not to stop, but she chose you. A beat of silence. John raised both hands slowly. Listen to me, man. I don't care what you think you had. That's over. You want to hurt someone? Go yell at a wall. You shoot me out here. You're not walking away from it. Derek's eyes twitched. I don't care if I walk away. He raised the gun. Suddenly, headlights. Angela's car screeched onto the shoulder. She jumped out, screaming, Derek! No! He turned, startled just long enough. John dove forward. The gun went off. The shot echoed through the trees like a cannon, a sharp crack that split the night wide open. Angela screamed. John collapsed to one knee. Blood bloomed across the shoulder of his jacket, a dark, spreading stain. Derek froze, shocked by his own action. Just for a second. That second was all John needed. With a guttural yell, John surged forward and tackled him. The gun clattered to the ground, kicked into the gravel by the force of their collision. Fists flew. Dirt churned. Angela ran toward them, screaming their names, eyes wide with panic. John was bleeding, yes, but he was still strong, still furious, still fighting not for pride, but for his life. Derek clawed for the weapon, but John pinned his arm and drove a punch straight into his jaw, then another to his ribs. Derek groaned and spit blood. You don't touch my family. John's voice broke with every word. Angela reached them just as John finally staggered off, exhausted and bleeding, swaying on his feet. Derek lay in the dirt, wheezing. Angela knelt beside her husband. Oh my God, John, you're shot. Baby, you're shot. He looked at her, pain in his eyes, but also clarity. Angela, you knew, he said. Tears spilled from her eyes. I was going to tell you, she whispered. I was scared. I didn't know how, and then he wouldn't let it go. John nodded once. Call 911, he said, then closed his eyes. 20 minutes later, police cars, ambulance, sirens cutting through the night. John was loaded into the back of the ambulance, conscious but pale. The EMTs said the bullet missed his lung by half an inch. Angela rode beside him, clutching his hand the whole way, sobbing quietly. Derek was cuffed on the roadside, jaw broken, ribs bruised, eyes full of cold fury. He never looked at Angela again. 2 weeks later. John was home, healing. Angela had confessed everything. It was ugly, it was honest, and it shattered something in him. But he was still there. For the kids, for himself. Maybe, one day, for her. They sat together on the back porch one evening, watching Madison chase fireflies and Elijah throw a football to himself in the yard. Angela reached for his hand. He let her, just for a moment. In prison, Derek refused visitors. No letters, no statements, no remorse. He spent most of his time in silence, still believing Angela was his, still blaming John for taking her away. But deep down, in the place where shame grows, he knew. She never was his. Not really. The